La'atzor. Good. To travel. Linsoa. Linsoa. Now you see, after the lamed you put an E sound. Why? Because the first letter is a nun, so it goes together that way. But then when you put the O sound after the samach, right? And before the ayin, but you have the ayin at the end, it means the A sound. So it comes out as linsoa. Now if you know that one is linsoa, look at the next one, similar pattern, right? Because you got the ayin at the end. First two we had ayin in the beginning. These two we have ayin at the end. So let's see, linsoa. What's the next one? Shin mem ayin. How would you do that one? Lishmoa. Linsoa. Lishmoa. Okay. Now we got another one. This one is how do you form the infinitive? How do you form infinitive? When the third letter is a hey. Okay. We're going to do the verb to do, okay? Which is pronounced asa, right? Ayin, this is a sin, and this is a hey, right? Asa. This is not a shin, it's a sin. So, what happens to this one? This is where you gotta pay attention, because it's different. When you have the hey at the end, you will notice this is a very weak letter. This letter tends to disappear. A lot like the vav in the middle disappears, the hey at the end disappears also. So what is it replaced with? So it's replaced, as you will notice in Hebrew many times, the hey is replaced with a tav. Actually, the hey and tav are both, can be considered like feminine endings, right? That's why you have we conjugated lachshov, to think. He choshev, and the feminine is choshevet. You're adding a tav. Tav is also a feminine ending. But in this case, we're ending, the tav and the hey are like twin sisters. They're like interchangeable sometimes. So what you do is, you do the exact same thing we did before. You have the la, you have the a, or you have the ayin, you have the sama, you have the vav in the position after the second root letter, and then this changes to a tav. Okay. And this, when you do the infinitive, just the infinitive. This is specific to the infinitive only, and this is pronounced la asot. Okay, la asot. Why is it la asot? Well, that's not any different than we had la azor, la atzor, right? So if you know it starts with an ayin, you know it's going to be la a, right? That's how it's pronounced. But then you got this change at the end, right? So now let's take a look. Any questions first of all?
It's just hard for me to process because of the handwriting. I'm still trying to make the handwriting.
Because of handwriting?
Yeah.
I'll rewrite it for you.
You want to hit down here?
Yeah. Okay.
I'm going to rewrite
That's
it.
what I've been following
Yeah.
on this list. too. And you can see.
Okay, are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
And then, how are we going to do the infinitive? Yeah. Okay, does that make sense? La asot. Okay, so this is following the rule. The vav here is following the rule. The difference is the hey changes to a tav. Now, let's say we change the root. If I change this root to la asot meant to do, but then we can do this one. Ana means to answer. To answer. So what would I do? So I change this letter to a nun, but it has exactly the same pattern. So how would you read that one? La anot. So you have la asot, la anot. Okay?
Okay.
It's the exact same pattern. Now let's say, so let's have
This
one.
is a plural feminine?
No, this is the infinitive. We're on the infinitive. It just happens to look similar.
Okay.
Now we're going to change the root again.
So that'll be the same for any going all the way down through Y. on
No,
that
we're
list,
getting
no?
to those, we're getting to those right now.
I
So
thought
the
you said
next-
it was anytime it ended.
Oh, anytime it ends on the hay, that
Okay.
hay will change to a tav
Okay,
in the infinitive.
okay, but it might have a different prefix.
Well, there's no prefix on this one. The prefix for the infinitive is always le. That's the prefix, always,
Okay.
right? It's not a prefix, it's a preposition saying to. It's literally saying to and then the infinitive, right? There are two words.
Mhm.
This is not a separate word. I mean, this is a separate word, the le. It's just a one-letter word, so it has to attach to this word. So the next one is this root. This is a good one. Okay. Ratzak, to want. Okay, so again, we're plugging in the roots. So now we got it, we got that, right? Because the hay still changes to a tav. But now we got this in here, so how is that? Well, this, in this case, because it's not an ayin, the vowel after the lamed is not gonna be a, it's gonna be like e, okay? That's how it always is. But every time that you ever see it, it's gonna be, like, in this form, will read e. So it's gonna be lirtzot. It's gonna be lirtzot, to want, lirtzot. Okay, now let's say we have, does that make sense to everybody? Lirtzot. But now the root is your favorite one, Anissa, you had this one last time. Shin, tav, right? To drink.
Oh, yeah.
Shatav. So how would you do this one? So I just changed the root letters, that's all. It's same thing. It's li. Go ahead, read it. Someone read it. Lishtot. Lishtot. There's no vowel here. There's never a vowel here. Lishtot. So we have lirtzot. Lishtot. Okay. Let's skip the next one to C. We'll skip that one right now. We'll go to the next one, to buy. To buy. That is kana, right? So how would you, again, because you have the hey, this is gonna be a tav, and then these are just gonna plug in, right? So same thing, li, how would you read it? Someone read it? Okay, liknot, yes. So we have lirtzot, lishtot, liknot. You see there's a clear pattern there. When it starts with an ayin, we said it was la'asot, la'anot, right? When it started with an ayin but ended on a consonant like a resh, we had la'azor, la'atzor, right? So it's similar, very similar patterns. You can start to see these patterns. Let's see the other one. What happened with the to see? To see, yeah. Resh. Second one is aleph. Last one is hey. That it's not any different than any of the other ones except you've got an aleph here. So what do? You do lamed, resh, right? The second thing, just follow the pattern. You got first root letter, second root letter. What do you put here for the infinitive? Vav, which makes an O sound. And then a tav, which change, because of the hey, changes to a tav. And how will you read it? Lirot. And it's read just like that, lirot. That's it. It's that simple. You know, just read it, lirot. It's like you plug the letters into the template, that's it. Everything about Hebrew is like, you got a template, everything has its template, and then you plug in the letters, plug in the root. The meaning is in the root, and then all you have to, and the grammar is in the template, right? Okay. So, let's see, we did some of these other ones. To remember, okay. Anybody wanna volunteer to give me the infinitive of this one? Whoops, I'm already writing. Yeah, yeah, that means to remember, right? Now, the meaning, these three letters together mean remember, that's what that means, it can take many different forms. So what's the infinitive form for it? So how would you write it? Spell it for me. Too many, you have way too many vowel sounds in there, I don't know what you There's only two vowels, there's only two vowels.
Are there always only two?
Yes, two vowels only. In the infinitive, there's always just two vowels. There's the first vowel, there's the L followed by a vowel. And then there's two consonants that come together. And then there's the O sound, and then there's the last consonant. That's it. It's like, just like that. So, anyone wanna guess? Anyone wanna just say it? We score. Good. Let's say this was, let's do this one. Alright, let's do this one. To sell. This is a kaf, okay? Man, kaf, resh. Okay, how would you do that one?
Thinking of
The infinitive, to sell. Let's say, what did you just say for this one? Remember, you've got like this. L, which has an E sound after it. And then you've got the root letter, followed by another root letter, right, whatever they are, followed by an O sound, followed by the last root letter. That's how you read it. So this one was, right, liskor, right? In this case, I'm changing them out. I'm changing them out, and this is now gonna be an M, this is gonna be a K, and this is gonna be an R. Limkor, okay? Right? Like, just like we had before, let's say, this one. Right? So this is gonna be a B, this is gonna be a H, and this is gonna be an R. Oh, sorry, this B is gonna turn into a V.
So can you do to die then, after that?
So how would you read this one? To choose. Livchor. Right? So you see the pattern. Liskor, limkor, livchor. It's all exactly the same. Yeah, what was your question? Sorry.
So can you do to die?
To die?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, lamut. That's a separate
So it
pattern.
stays.
That's a different pattern.
Okay,
When you have the vav in the middle,
okay.
that vav will disappear when you conjugate it. But in the infinitive, it stays as is. And you just add the lam in front, and that makes not an O sound, it makes an U sound in that pattern. Except, there's one exception, and that is lavo, to come.
So can you
To
go
come is
through,
lavo.
can you go through each of the roots and which one
Yeah,
would indicate?
this is pronounced lavo, not lavu. That's what I was trying to say.
Okay.
Lavo.
And
That's the
that,
exception.
and
Yeah,
that was because of,
that might have something to do with it ending on an aleph.
okay, so that's not it,
That's an exception.
That's an
I'm calling it an
exception.
exception.
okay.
All the other ones are an U sound. Yeah. But yeah, go ahead. What's the question?
So we have the ending for hay,
Yeah.
for oat, and then we have some of these that are consistent. Are there any other like consistencies that we would
Yeah.
look at and know?
Yeah. I have a whole. I have. That's why I chose these ones.
Oh,
So
okay,
they're
these all
they're-
have a.
They all have certain things like. If it ends on an aleph, you've got here find and call
Mhm.
as examples. Okay. Is that okay, or should I write in another letter we used to? Is that okay? Mem tzadi aleph. Does that make sense? No, I'll do it like this. Does that make sense? Okay, ends on an aleph. Here's another one, to call. So this is to find,
That's an M,
Is
M
mem.
final.
mem, tzadi, aleph. Okay, now we have also kuf, resh, aleph, to call. Okay. So these will be very similar. Okay, what do? It's exactly the same as we've seen before. No difference, right? The only difference is it ends on an aleph, which does not make any sound. So there's no, like we saw that pattern where it's like li, right? Consonant, o, and then another consonant, right? Well, this consonant is an aleph. It's still there, you write it, just doesn't make any sound. So it sounds like it ends on the O. So how do? You say limtso, lipro, just like that. You do not add the tav. That's only the hey changes to a tav. The aleph never changes to a tav. Okay, another one. If it ends on a chet, for example, we do this one. Okay, shin, kaf, and chet. Okay, will be same thing that you're used to. Okay, it's gonna be li, shin, k, o, and then the chet, but the chet at the end is pronounced ah, all by itself. You add an extra vowel in front of it, ah. Like that. Ooh, we just went over time for 5 minutes. Okay, so I have to cut it off. I said
For the first people.
hard stop.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna stop, but just this,
Here.
to close out this topic, when it ends on the chet, it's pronounced lishkoach. It's pronounced lishloach, lismoach, liftoach. Okay, it's exactly the same pattern as all the other ones. It ends, it just has an extra ah before the chet. And it's not written, it's just known that that's how it's written. It's written in with nikud, they write it like this, but instead of pronouncing it after the chet, you pronounce it before the chet. So, okay, that's it. Does anyone have any final questions or concerns?
Maybe, Captain.
I will answer your question though,
Oh, about the consistent ones.
about that whole list that you have.
Oh, yeah.
That whole list,
I think we were sort of getting there as we were going through them. So it's actually helpful to see it this way because then I can track the patterns
yeah,
in my head.
there are a lot of patterns.
Yeah, and I can see it this way,
There
so
are.
it's super helpful.
There are different, it's called binyanim, okay? Binyanim, these are forms or constructions, constructs, I suppose, something like that, okay? There are 7 of them. Today, we are looking at just this one. That's what we did today, just the one. Including with the vav in the second position, that's all part of this one. All of the other things we had, all the verbs on this list are verbs of this type.
Okay.
There are verbs that are 7 types. Okay, but the root will be maybe the same between many types.
So I'm only
So the
talking about
meaning-
myself and I'm only using.
The meaning will be similar, but the difference will be that each type has its own overlay of a meaning. For example, this one, the first one, this is called the pa'al form. This is the simple form, this is just a simple verb. And let's say another one is called the nifal form. Okay, this form is just the pa'al verb, but as a passive voice. Okay, alright, I'll see you later.
Thank you.
And this, et cetera. And this will be a whole lesson, we're gonna go through all of them, I'm gonna explain all of them. Once you learn the pa'al, the rest of them will become easier because a lot of the endings, like the conjugation and things, are very similar.
Okay.
It's just a slight difference in the form. There's something specific about how it's, you know, there are like additional prefixes, suffixes,
I
whatever.
think just like hearing the sounds more,
Yeah,
is super, because it's super consistent, you can hear the patterns.
yes,
And then just understanding the patterns.
yes. But
Then
it-
you could take a while to guess and you'd probably guess it right.
This is yours. don't worry.
Fabulous.
No,
Thank
that's
you.
okay.
I have one at home though.
You do?
Yeah.
You want an extra one?
Okay.
See you, good night, Jen.
Thank you.
Crossing my fingers, toes, and eyes, you don't have a ticket.
Thank you, I need that.
Yeah, you're welcome. I don't know what it does,
Well,
but
let me
you're
turn
welcome.
off this